We only had a few more jobs to complete at the marina before we could head out to sea. Troy lashed a new radar reflector onto our backstay. He also fabricated covers out of balsa wood to hide the wiring coming out of our electric boxes, and installed our Catadyne Power Survivor water maker into its new position in the galley.
Alright, well that's our water maker all wired up and plumbed, so we'll hide him. We've talked a fair bit about that water maker when we did that video on how to pull it apart and put it back together. But that is, we can tick that off the list. I'm hoping that that soundproofs it rather than turns it into a speaker box, but we'll see. If it turns into a speaker box, we're going to have to put some foam in there.
Oh, how does she look?
Oh. What we'll need to do though is definitely have a bolster down the side here.
Yep, we've got one. I can hand it to you now and see how it goes.
Yeah, chuck the bolster in. It's nice because your back is like perfectly against the side of the hull.
What's the bad thing about it?
Now I can see the kitchen light.
Oh.
It's the only spot.
There we go.
Oh, now it looks great. The boat looks big now. I'm out of it.
We had an overnight stay at an anchorage near the marina, and the next morning we were out sailing the D'Entrecasteaux Channel. The wind was really cranking out in the channel, with gusts much stronger than we were expecting or what was forecast.
Can't pull it in a little bit more. It's up and hard.
It's really common in the D'Entrecasteaux Channel to get sudden changes in wind direction and intensity, so we were kept really busy, hand steering the boat and trimming the sails in order to respond quickly to the conditions. We were getting a taste of why this spot is so favoured by race crews as a training ground. Here the gusts were so strong, we decided to reef the headsail further, so Troy brought us up into the wind and pulled the furling line, while I took care of the sheeting line. As the day progressed, the winds intensified, and as we started to turn westwards, we were coming closer and closer towards the wind, funneling up into the channel. Sorry now, I won't do it again. Eventually, it got to a point where we could make way no further, and we retreated into an anchorage on Bruny Island. That was a bit of an epic, our first day out. Our first day, day one on our crossing over back home to Fremantle via South Australia. Sailing down the channel, we were supposed to have norwesterly winds. We didn't, we got westerly winds. We had an hour or so of really nice, once we came out of that anchorage that we'd stayed in overnight when we left the marina. Once we came out of there, that was pretty nasty. Once we came out of there, we had an hour of really nice sailing on a reach, and we thought it was going to be great, but it didn't turn out that way. The last 2 hours we were just smashing into it. It was really strong, probably about 30 knot westerlies, and yeah, as you saw on the footage, we were wearing a lot of waves across the bow. The good thing that came out of that is that we got to really test our boat and see what was leaking and see what we may need to fix or what we might have overlooked in the refit, and it turns out that just about everything is leak free, which is super exciting. The only thing that was really leaking was the Dorade in the forepeak. That's always been a feature of the Clansman, but we put a new plastic fitting on there because the old one had cracked, and I guess when we put it in we didn't seal it enough, so we're going to just pull that apart and reseal it with more butyl tape at some point in the next few days. The only other issue as well down below is that we probably put a little bit too much diesel fuel into our bottom bunker, and the pressure of the diesel against the inspection hatch. At one point of the inspection hatch there, the sealers has worn away, and we had a little bit of seeping diesel coming out onto the floor of the cabin. It wasn't too bad, and we're hoping we might be able to seal that back up anyway. So that was a bit of an 20 minutes of me mopping up all of the diesel, and then the kettle spilt because we were crashing around. The kettle spilt, so then the diesel mixed with a whole lot of water, so I just had a great time down below in the crashing waves trying to mix it up, but didn't get seasick, which is good. So we got in, had a really nice hot meal, and had splurged and had a really good wash, freshwater wash, and Troy's asleep because he's pretty knackered from being sprayed in the face for 3 hours. He even said this morning that he was exhausted. We're just feeling tired because of the refit. He already said he was exhausted. I was like, oh, it doesn't matter, we'll just have a nice relaxed sail up the channel. I think I might have jinxed us. I feel pretty bad about that. But we're at Quarry's Bay. We actually stopped in here before, and this is where Troy was quite unwell, so we had a couple of days recovering here, so maybe we'll have another day recovering here again. So while Troy's having his nap, I'm going to set up our Iridium Go, because we've got a full package from our friend Rob Martin at ClientSat. He's set us up with a full unlimited package, and he's also set us up with tracking, so we're going to be able to offer tracking to our patrons and family so they can see where we are when we're doing the bike crossing, which is really exciting. So I'm going to see if I can sort out the settings with our Iridium Go and sort all that out, and then we'll also be able to have full weather skeds and predict wind weather package. So we'll let you know how our experience with the package crossing the Bight, and if we had success receiving weather skeds and whether we found it a useful program. We'll keep you updated with that. We actually installed an external aerial out the back on the solar arch, and that is going to assist with getting, we always had difficulty with the Iridium Go getting clear calls, a clear satellite signal, so that we could receive those grid files and things like that. So we're hoping that this new aerial will give us a much clearer signal, because it used to drop out a lot. Rob told us that it tends to work really well, and John Sanders installed the same unit on his boat and he's had no troubles with it. So we'll see how it goes. This is the new home
of our Iridium Go unit. So it's sitting in here. This is, I'll pull it out because I'm going to have to play around with it too. That's the aerial connection there. And we have a little 12 volt mini USB charger jack that keeps it charged in all the time. So we'll have direct tracking, and it will be pinging SMSs every hour on a live tracking for our patrons and family.
Now what do you think you're doing?
He's awake. Is it cozy in our new renovated V-berth? Did you dream?
So we've decided to upgrade our safety a little bit with these automatic man overboard devices. What this does is you tuck it away inside your life jacket, auto-inflating life jacket, and when it inflates, it pulls this little slide out, releases a little antenna. I guess it's an aerial because it's a transmitter. And then it sends out a digital selective calling all ships and says that there's a man overboard. But it also will alert our radio with selective calling to set off an alarm on our ship, and we'll see it on our GPS. If there's someone in the water, you can come back and pick it up. It's not EPIRB, it's an AIS. So any ship in the area, it'll actually say that there's a man overboard. It'll be a distress signal, and it'll show it on their GPS and they can go pick it up. Because normally if people go overboard and they're in an emergency, you'll have a personal locator beacon, which is a small version of one of these EPIRBs. But then you're waiting for, you know, aircraft and the Search and Rescue Australia to come and get you. Whereas this thing will alert your ship that you've gone overboard when your automatic inflator goes off in your life jacket. It'll raise hell through through our VHF radio, and then the person on watch can dump sails, whatever, turn around and pick the person up, because your chance of rescue is much better by your own boat. But it's very hard, even a bright yellow life jacket, it's really hard to see someone, especially at night, whereas this thing's got a little strobe, it's sending out a signal, and it's got an accuracy of a couple of meters. But in order for it to talk to our radio, I actually have to program it what number to ring, if you like. We've got an MMSI number, which is basically our own telephone number on our radio, if you don't know anything about it. So it wants us to do that, and it's a kind of a tricky little thing, because there's no keyboard or anything. So you get online and you get this little program, and then you type in the number, and then it has a strobe, and there's a little window in here, and it can sense the sequence of lights, and that's how it tells it that it's number. So that's really, really good, because it was always one of those things where we've been sailing with, you know, like 2 meter waves and stuff like that on the boat. It hasn't been that much of an issue for us being knocked overboard, and we live on the boat full time. The most dangerous time for us now will probably be in the next 2 weeks, because we haven't been on our boat full time. We're just like most people who, you know, live in a house and go sailing. We haven't got an ingrained sense of what the boat's going to do like you do when you're a full-time liveaboard. So for the next 2 weeks, it will feel like the same old boat, but we've got a much higher chance of being caught by surprise by a rogue wave, you know, or you know, we're rusty. We haven't been doing this for quite some time. We've been boat refitters, not boat sailors. So these things, you know, those life jackets, we'll bang those on when we're doing the crossing. Because crossing the boat, we're not taking it lightly. Anyway, that's those guys programmed, so we can turn this computer off. It's done. Let's strap them into our life jackets.
Oh yeah.
I'll just get this ready to put on the life jacket. You have to feed this little eye through one of these slots to make part of the auto inflation. As you slide it to the side, you get this flashing light, and it sort of gives you a time limit to get it through there before it's actually going to turn on. But then we can just hold that little test button to turn it off.
Is the red flashing once it's on? The green's
if I just left it, it's yeah, it keeps on going. So, but anyway, we just like said that on. And now I've got that, I'm just going to put that back, because this has got a little slot in it here. So when that's up, it engages with that little tooth here, and it stops that from sliding sidewards. Because what happens is, if that's down, if you pull that slide all the way to the side, the little steel antenna unsprings, and then this suddenly starts transmitting and people start trying to help you. So we'll leave that up. We'll leave that up for the time being, just while we install it. But that tape there, now, we just have to secure it to this bracket, and it'll hold that to that straw. But this strap itself now goes around here, so when it auto inflates, this pulls that. So it's all attached, tapes on, instruction sheet. Can I fit a finger behind there? Just. If we left that red slide up, not armed, you could potentially prevent that from inflating. So now, armed. Look, they even write armed on the little clear bit of plastic. And that's that. That's ready to go.
Next week on Free Range Sailing, join us as we have a quick stop on the west coast and then depart Tasmania, beginning our rough and wet passage of the Southern Ocean as we cross the Roaring Forties and head northwest towards the Great Australian Bight. As always, thanks for watching this episode, and if you enjoyed it, we'd really appreciate it if you'd give it a thumbs up. It helps us out. And we look forward to seeing you next week.